Hello and welcome back to the another episode of Daily News Quiz Analysis for IAS Prelims 2025. It is 16th January today, and in this video we are going to solve different types of questions which are very much relevant for your preparation. As usual, before we start solving these questions, I would like to give you the brief introduction about this initiative so that if you are new to our channel, you will get more connected with it. I will keep it very much brief and very much precise. In this video, we try to discuss various types of questions from various sources. And if we will divide these questions into different parts, it would come under three major parts. In the first part of our discussion, we discuss questions with respect to current affairs. You know what we do? We take up the most important articles from the newspapers, we break them down into the simplest language possible, and we try to derive the possible prelims questions from that particular article so that it will give the idea what part of the news article you should read, how you should go through your current affairs preparation, and how you can expect a prelims based question from these particular topics. This is all we understand. This is all what we are going to understand in the first part of our discussion. After we will solve the questions with respect to current affairs, we will shift our approach to the another part of our discussion where we will take up some static topic questions. You know what we do? We are doing this from last 2 to 3 months now. We had started with Indian polity. Every day we will try to discuss a topic from the Indian polity and derive a prelims question from that. Right now we are discussing the office of the president in Indian constitution. Today we are going to discuss the procedure of election of the president. So we are going to derive a question on that with respect to your preparation. We are going to derive a prelims based question from that so that it will give the idea how discrete, how far the UPSC can go in asking these questions, and also it will help you clear the concepts regarding the election of the president. After we will solve questions with respect to the current affairs and the static part, we will shift our approach to the last part of our discussion where we will solve some previous year questions. To me, this is the most important part of our video. In this part, we will try to understand what is the vocabulary used by the UPSC from years, what are the various trends which the UPSC uses, and what are the, how, and we will try to understand in what ways UPSC faculty or the examiner tries to fail you and in what way he tries to pass you. We'll try to understand everything, and we will try to understand different methods by which we can solve the questions if we don't have the proper knowledge, and also we'll try to understand how we can implement this knowledge in the upcoming exam. So this is in a nutshell about the video what we are going to do in this. Now, before we'll start solving these questions, I would like to request you one important thing which I believe is very much important for you guys. That is, if you are watching this video, please do one thing. Please start noting down these questions. Do develop your own question bank before the exams are there. When your exams would be near, you would want to revise everything and time won't permit you. It is the human tendency. When your exams are near, you would want to go through everything, but time does not permit you. So you will feel lack in confidence, and it is going to affect your preparation in your preparation in the exam. It is going to affect that day. So if you have these questions with you and you want to revise everything, you just have to go through these questions. These questions would connect you with the current affairs, they will connect you with the static part, they will connect you with the previous year questions, and definitely it is going to boost your confidence. And also one important thing, as I discussed what are the sources of these questions, where from we are getting these questions, and the irony about this is it is the same source which the UPSC is going to ask from. So there are chances that many questions can coincide. Suppose if not the questions, the statements may coincide. If not even the statements, but trust me, these would be the concepts where from the UPSC faculty or examiner is going to ask you the questions. So being on the safer side, I would request you guys, please note down these questions and revise them when your exams are near. I'm mostly talking about the month of May. With this, I would like to request you one last thing that is important for the channel. Please do subscribe it. do share it with your friends, and do hit the like button if you like the videos, and do communicate with us through the chats, through the through the chats, chat sessions, or we can say through the comments. Do communicate with us, do write in the comments what do you feel about the video. So with this, I hope I did not took much time in introduction part. Now with this, let's start discussing the questions which we had brought today, and let's try to find out what is the reason why we had brought these questions here. The first question, it is about the term, namely cartographic aggression. If you would have read today's newspaper, you would have definitely come through this term about cartographic aggression, and that's the main reason why we had brought this question here. There was an article in the newspaper which talked about the red flags, as the topic of the article was the red flag as China's expansionist strategy rolls on. What does this topic deal with? Let's discuss that. you know Recently, in the month of October last year, India and China, they agreed on disengagement. They signed. We can say they signed a disengagement agreement, and by this agreement, both the countries, they started to disengage. We saw what were the places. For example, Dam Chowk was there, Dapsang Valley was there. At these places, disengagement started. So it was very good news for the both countries. It was very much good news, and it was very much appreciated by both the countries. But there is a catch which the author here wants us to understand. What happens, for example, if there is a conflict between you two, for in your personal life, if you have conflict with your friend or your wife or your girlfriend, and you would try to solve that conflict, what you will do, the next step would be that you will start developing the confidence. Then the next step after this engagement, we wanted to develop the confidence. Everybody was expecting that there would be now confidence building measures would be taken from the both sides. But irony is, but unfortunately, we saw that from the China's, how China is working on its expansionist policies, how China is doing, we don't feel confident about this relationship. So let us see what China has done after this. What are the major things which China has done, which are the red flag to this relationship, which we had tried to achieve in the month of October. First thing which the author here mentions, he mentions about the Brahmaputra dam. You know, Brahmaputra Dam. We took a separate class, or we can say separate discussion about this. Year-long Sangpo Dam, which is also called the Brahmaputra Dam. How it can be impactful, how it can affect the lower riparian states like India and Nepal, how they can be affected, how the China can use it against India, how water wars can, how China can play a water war against India by this dam, how there can be artificial floods in India if China wants to do so. So and India is very much hesitant with respect to this dam, but China has done it very much unilaterally. They did not took any advice from India or other lower riparian states, and they did it unilaterally. They gave us only few, they told us that we are not going to impact you, but everybody knows if you are enjoying some power, for what you would use that. You are definitely going to use it against your enemies, and India is one of the enemy of China. So here the author, he discusses about the China's response with respect to the year-long Sangpo Dam, in which they had spent 137 billion dollars already. So we can understand how much important it is for them, and how, whether, or that we will see in the future whether they will use it against India or not. But there are chances that this dam can be used against Indian interest. Then the another thing which the author here mentions, he mentions about the in December 2024, in December 2024, China released some certain official maps. They released certain official maps in which they claimed few territories which are very much disputed in the Xinjiang region between India and China, and they claimed that. And this claiming of these territories, unofficially, claiming these territories, this is what the cartographic aggression is all about. Further, these were the few important things which the author discussed. Majorly, he discussed about the how there are red flags in China, which are just for us. They are the red flag for us. We saw that how they are dealing with the Brahmaputra Dam, or we can say Yarlong Sangpo Dam, and also about how they released some certain official maps in which they claimed some territories which are very much disputed between India and China, and how does it lead to the cartographic aggression. Further, the author says here that how it is not only India which is in conflict with the China. There are other states also, there are other nations also which have border conflicts with the China. But how the countries in the southeast, how they are dealing differently with respect to the other countries. For example, if we will see the Western countries, they are forming the multilateral organizations in the name of working against China. But in the Indian subcontinent, here it is not the same scene here. In this Indian subcontinent, even though the countries have the conflict with China, but they are not responding in the same way in which the West is responding. Nobody is ready, no country is ready to take the side of India right now. Every country, whether that might be in Bhutan or Pakistan, we are seeing that they are very much economically, they are very much weaker than China, and they want Chinese funds, so that they are very much comfortable what the China does with them. So here the author raises a question that why not India. India should take the main role here. It is the responsibility of India to make sure regional groupings are made, and collective, you know they should collectively, go take a stand against China's aggression. So it is what the author here suggests, is that how it is India's responsibility to make sure that these regional groupings should be made in the Southeast Asia, also in the Indian subcontinent also, so that they can collectively raise voice against China's expansionist policy. So this is all in nutshell about this question, why we had brought this here. This is in nutshell what was in the news article today. Now with this, I hope you had understood why we had brought this question, because I would try to recap it once again. The China's post disagreement, disengagement agreement, which was signed between India and China. Both the countries, especially India, was expecting that there would be now confidence building, but it was not it was not seen from the Chinese side. We saw that how they are spending billions in the Brahmaputra Dam, which is going to impact eventually India. And we are seeing that how they are releasing these how they are releasing these maps, certain official maps, which in which the places are included in the Chinese territory as if they belong to China, but in reality they are the disputed territories. So this is what the author here suggests, that you know even though we had reached to that point that the disengagement agreement was signed, but still China is our biggest red flag for us, and it is India's responsibility to develop the regional groupings, so that the voice against China will be increased and it would be heard on the international platforms. So this is all about this question. Now with this, let's try to understand this question and move towards the another topic. Here the question says, which of the following statements best describe the concept of cartographic aggression? First statement: the deliberate use of inaccurate or misleading maps to incite violence or conflict between nations. Even though it can incite violence and conflict, but it is not the major principle of this. It is not the major principle of the China. Even it is not the major principle of the China to incite violence against or conflict between the nations. So with respect to this question, even though it can lead to it, but it is not the basic idea behind the cartographic aggression. Second, the unauthorized reproduction and distribution of copyrighted maps for commercial gain and often leading to territorial disputes. No, also incorrect, very much unrelated. Third, the strategic manipulation of map projections, symbols, and territorial boundaries to assert territorial claims or justify expansionist policies. 100% correct. This is what defines the cartographic aggression. So with respect to this question, the correct statement is statement C. Now let us see what does the fourth statement say. It says the use of satellite imagery and and remote sensing technology to monitor and enforce international borders. Totally incorrect. Nothing with respect to this concept. So here, with respect to this question, I hope you had understood what this cartographic aggression is. Why we discussed this, because how the author suggested that China is a red flag, even though we had agreed to the disengagement, agreement. We were expecting the confidence, but it is not what how China is showing right now, how China is dealing with this right now. So with this, let's move to the another question and try to understand that what was the reason why we had brought that question, and what that question deals with. Here, here we had brought the question with respect to the consensual sexual relation. Very interesting topic. Even if you are not the IS aspirant, everybody is very much interested in it. you know I remember the days when I was in school. Whenever there was anything related to the topics like reproduction, everybody would listen. So I believe if you are listening right now, you would open your ears to me and listen this very well. Why we had brought this question here? Because recently you would had seen through Instagram also, or through memes, that how Oyo's new policy, how they had brought new policies with respect to not allowing couples who are not married. The core discussion about this article, about this topic, is with respect to the consensual sexual relations in our country and the new rules which were brought forward by Oyo. So let's dig deep into it and let's see how it is in India, how does it work in India, and what the courts can do, how people can respond to it. You know, with respect to first, let's understand one point here. You everybody here would have heard about Oyo, and it was very much popular because of this scene only. But we can say, fortunately or unfortunately for some, that they had brought up new policies in which they had mentioned it very clearly that they will not be allowing the couples who are not married. So unmarried couples would not be allowed. Unmarried couples will not be allowed. So they will, with respect that, they will do some checks and balances to make sure that whether the couple who are entering the hotel are married or not. So here a question can come to your mind. You should, if you are a IS aspirant, you should ask that how can you know how can anybody in our country stop two adults? If How can anybody in our country stop two adults doing whatever they want to do? For example, if there are two adults, they are willing to have sexual relationship, how can anybody stop them? Even what Now here we want to understand what is the status of consensual sexual relation in our country outside marriage. With respect to that, we have you know with respect to that, we have right to engage in sexual intercourses. With respect to that, we have different Supreme Court judgments, in which one of the major judgment is Navtej Singh Johar case versus Union of India, in which any sex based on consent is upheld. That means in our country, if there are two adults, they want to have sex, they want to have the sexual relationship, and they are not married, then it is not criminalized in our country. They can have whatever they want to do. So this is the whole idea behind it. Now here, what are the articles which support it? Here you need to remember this judgment, which is Navtej Singh Johar case versus Union of India. Navtej Singh Johar case versus Union of India. In this case, it was the consensual a sex based on consent is very much upheld in our country. It also upheld the homogeneity, we can say, in a way. So with this with this judgment, what articles support this judgment in our country? We have article, in our country we have article 21, which is right to life and liberty. Choose in which you are allowed to choose your partner for any kind of for anything. You are allowed to live in you are allowed to be in live in relationship under article 21. And also we had seen different, for example, we had seen domestic violence act that also had included that if any couple is living in a relationship, then the woman who is in a living relationship is also liable to the provisions of the domestic violence act. So what does it say? It clearly says that you can have the consensual sexual relationship with anybody. But here the question comes, how could the private company, which is Oyo, they did not allow you, how could they in a way stop this, or how could they ask for your IDs whether you are married or not? Here comes the question that there are you know two types of violations with respect to rights. Here are two types of violations. One is vertical violation. Here in our country, or we can say there are two types of violation. One is vertical violation. What is this vertical violation? If anything is, for example, it is from the government. If this it is from the government, if for example, if government would had made any provision that the consensual sex, it would be banned, it is criminalized, then it is a violation from the government. For such violations, for vertical violations, we have good redressal mechanisms, we have good mechanisms to deal with, we can go to the courts. But with respect to the horizontal violation, which includes the violation from the private entities, with respect to that, we don't have that much, it is not that much well defined. So with respect to this, the author says that with respect to the horizontal violations which happen from the society, we can say from the private entities, from the private individuals, there should be well defined, you know there should be there should be well defined laws which would deal with how, if anybody is doing the horizontal violation, if any company is doing this horizontal violation, how they would be dealt with that. It should be very well defined. So this is in nutshell about this article, how the main purpose of this article is to make you understand whether consensual marriage sexual relationship is allowed in our country or not. To this question, it is 100% allowed. So then another question is it allowed for everybody? No, it is not allowed for everybody, but for the adults, they should be adult. Then here comes the question about the whether, for example, if the female is married, then is it allowed? It can lead to, you know, it can lead to extramarital affairs and it can lead to punishment. So there are certain limitations to it, but consensual sexual relationship is very much allowed in our country. And for the private companies, they can frame whatever rules they want to with respect to that, because we don't have the proper understanding with respect to how we can deal with the horizontal violations. So what so I hope we had understood everything what is important with respect that. So with this, let's try to solve the question and get more idea about it. Here the question says, with reference to the legal position on consensual sexual relation outside marriage in India, which of the following statements is most accurate? Here we have to find out which of the following statement is most accurate. First, engaging in sexual intercourse outside of marriage is a criminal offense punishable under the Indian Penal Code. Totally incorrect, because we discussed how it is very much allowed. Second, while socially frowned upon, consensual sexual relations between adults outside marriage do not constitute a criminal offense in India. 100% correct. It is, it is socially frowned upon, but it is not criminalized under India. The second statement is correct. Third statement, consensual sexual relations outside marriage are legally permissible only if both individuals are of legal age and belong to the same religious community. Totally incorrect. It is totally incorrect. Even though the first part of the statement is correct, it is the consensual sexual relations outside marriage are legally permissible, but only if both the individuals are of legal age and belong to the same religious community. It is not so. So this is incorrect. And also one thing here, I want to mention a technique. Whenever you find some extreme statements like only, most of the time such statements are incorrect. Then the fourth statement, recent judicial pronouncement have explicitly granted legal recognition and protection to all forms of live-in relationships, including same-sex partnership. Even though it has granted legal recognition to the live-in relationships, but not all forms of it. So this is half correct statement, so we can mark it also incorrect. It is basically talking about this judgment which we discussed. Then Navtesh Singh Johar judgment it is talking about. So with respect to this question, the correct statement is option B only, which is while socially frowned upon, consensual sexual relationship between adults outside marriage do not constitute a criminal offense in India. 100% correct. So what was the reason why we discussed this question? Because of the new rules, or we can say new policies of the OYO, in which they are not going to allow the unmarried couple to book the hotel. They had brought such rules. And why we discussed that, what is the legal procedure, what does the constitution say, what does the Indian law say with respect to that. I hope we had understood every part of it very well. So with this, let's move to the another question, and let's try to see why we had brought that question, and let's discuss that. Here, the question we had brought is with respect to plea bargaining in India. But you may ask me a question here, sir. There was rarely any article about plea bargaining in India. Why we had brought this question? You would had heard of a news about a nurse in Yemen, who had killed her colleague, and she is about to get prosecuted there. She had been sent on a death sentence. But about Yemen, we understand one thing. It is a Muslim country where, you know, essence of Sharia is found. Essence of Sharia law is found. In Sharia law, there is a concept of diyat, which I believe you should know. Diyat, there is a concept of diyat. What is this? What this concept is about? For example, if mistakenly you kill anybody under the Sharia law, under the Muslim law, if mistakenly, not purposely, it was an innocent mistake, you killed somebody, and by any accident that person died. So what can you do with respect to that? So either there is the punishment that if you had killed anybody, you should also get killed. One punishment is life for a life, life for life. If you killed anybody, then you should also die. Or you can ask for diyat. Second thing is ask for diyat. What is this diyat? You will give the monetary value to that person, to the family of that person. For example, that person's family will ask you for the monetary benefits, and you will have to pay that. So this is called diyat, and this concept revolves in the Middle Eastern countries, because they follow Sharia law, and so does Yemen. So with respect to this nurse in Yemen who is being sent to the death sentence, so here there was discussion about how she can be saved, how diyat can be given so that her punishment would be reduced, how her punishment can be reduced. So with respect to this, that's this diyat in English terms, or we can say in today's terms, is called blood money. It is called blood money. So this article talked about how we can give this blood money to the family of that person who was killed by that nurse, and we can save the death penalty of that nurse which has been sent to death penalty. So with this regard, what is there any close concept? Is there the concept of diyat, or we can say blood money in India? No, we don't have the diyat or blood money in India, but anything which is very much close to it is plea bargaining. It is very much close to it. So with respect to the plea bargaining, we will understand through this question and get more idea about it. The first statement, plea bargaining is a process through which an accused pleads guilty to a lesser charge in exchange for a more lenient sentence. 100% correct. In plea bargaining, what happens? The accused, he will plead the guilty that he has done any mistake, and he will plead the guilty for the lesser charge. So this is 100% correct about plea bargaining. It was not in CPRC, we can say Criminal Procedure Amendment Act, but it was further when it was amended in 2005, then it was introduced. So the second statement says the concept of plea bargaining was introduced in India through the Criminal Procedure Amendment Act 2005. 100% correct. It was not earlier part of it. Third, is it available for every sentence? No, it is only available for the offenses punishable with imprisonment up to 7 years. So plea bargaining is available only for offenses punishable with imprisonment up to 7 years. 7 years or below 7 years. 100% correct. But here one thing you should make very much clear, that for example, if there is any person who has done the same mistake twice, then he is not viable for that, even though the punishment would be below 7 years. Then the fourth statement, it says the court has the discretion to accept or reject a plea bargaining agreement and the victim's consent is not required. So this statement, it is very much incorrect. Victim's consent is very much required in this. So courts have the discretion with respect to accept it or not, but majorly it is the victim's consent which is also taken care of. So with respect to this question, with respect to this question, the correct statements are statement 1, statement 2, and statement 3. Yeah, statement 3. But unfortunately, I had not given, you know, I guess I made a mistake here. Sorry. The court has the discretion to accept or reject a plea bargaining agreement with the victim's consent is not required. 100% it is correct. I'm sorry, I made a mistake here. It is 100% correct. And also plea bargaining is available only for offenses punishable with imprisonment up to 7 years. This is also correct. So with respect to this question, all the 4 statements are correct, which I had not mentioned. I would add it here and 2 also. So the correct option for this statement is 1, 2, 3, and 4. All the 4 statements are correct. So with this, I hope you had understood about the concept with respect to plea bargaining, how it is very much near, if we will see it, very much near to diyat system or blood money system, which is prevailing in the Middle East countries. How how plea bargaining, what it is about, how it is not applicable for the punishments for who belong, whose imprisonment is above 7 years, and also for the heinous crimes like child rape and murder, and all those crimes, it is not applicable to such crimes. And also about this, we understood that the court has the discretion to accept or reject a plea bargaining agreement. So and the victim's consent is not required. 100% correct. So with respect to this question, all the 4 statements are correct. With this, let's move to the another question and try to see solve what we had brought, and let's find out and let's solve that. Here the question is with respect to the Miyawaki method. Miyawaki method of forestation. We had brought a question with respect to Miyawaki method of forestation. Why we have brought this question? Because there was an article which talked about the Miyawaki forest in Chennai, Thiruvika Nagar, plagued by garbage woes. So it basically talked about how it is plagued by garbage. So here that is not important for you. What is important for you is this Miyawaki method, or we can say Miyawaki forest, what it is. you know about this, about this Miyawaki method, we should understand one thing. This is the technique which originated in Japan. So we had brought it from Japan. This Miyawaki technique has been brought from Japan, and also it is done in those places where we don't have the enough land space available. So in that particular place, these plants are planted very densely. So it is mostly done in urban areas to create urban, to create, it is done in the place to create urban forests, as there is not that much land available, so that it would be done very precisely. It is densely created and it saves lots of space and lots of trees. And also about this Miyawaki method, one thing is very interesting, that the growth of trees grow much faster as compared to the traditional forests. We can say the growth is much faster, and no extra weed related problems arise, as there is no extra weed related problems. For example, this is the land in which the trees are grown, when are grown or planted. When these are very densely planted, the sunlight, for example, the sunlight will not seep in these places. So because of the absence of sunlight in these spaces, no weed would be available. That is the one advantage of the Miyawaki method. So with this, I hope you had understood the basics of it. This technique was borrowed from Japan. It is done in the place where we don't have the enough land available, especially it is available for the urban foresting. But there are few advantages associated with it. For example, growth of trees, they grow much faster, and there is no extra weed related problems. So with this, let's try to solve this question and get more idea about it. Let us see what does the question say. Here the question says, consider the following differences It is basically about the following differences between the traditional afforestation methods and the Miyawaki method. Here, first statement, planting density. About planting density, Miyawaki emphasizes significantly higher planting density compared to traditional methods. 100% correct. We saw that. Second, species selection. What type of species in Miyawaki? Prioritize native species, while traditional method may include exotic or commercial valuable species. 100% correct. This Miyawaki it always prioritizes native species. Third, time to maturity. Miyawaki forests develop a complex ecosystem much faster than the traditional planted forests. 100% correct. Fourth, maintenance requirements. Miyawaki forests required intense maintenance for the first few years, while traditional methods often require ongoing maintenance. 100% correct. So with respect to this question, all the four statements are correct. So with this, I hope you had understood the concept. Now let's move to the another question and try to solve that. Here the question it is about the turmeric cultivation. Why we had brought this question here? Because there was a news article in the newspaper about the National Turmeric Board, as it was announced earlier, and it is being inaugurated by the Ministry of Commerce. And National Turmeric Board, it is being inaugurated by Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. It is been inaugurated by it. So here we need to know about the turmeric, how it is in India, what is the status of turmeric in India, what are the states which are most producing turmeric in abundance. We need to know about these states also. You know about turmeric, it is grown in the peninsular region. It can, for example, states like Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Madhya Pradesh. In such area, it is mostly grown in, and also it is found in Tamil Nadu and Meghalaya. So, what are the states in which the turmeric is cultivated? In Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, India. So, it is about the turmeric cultivation. It is also called the golden spice. We should know about that. And about the trends, India accounts for 70% of the global production of the turmeric. 70% of the global production of the turmeric is from India only. So we are the largest producer of the turmeric, and also we are the largest exporter of the turmeric in the world. So with this, let's try to solve the question and understand about it more. Here the question says, consider the following statements regarding turmeric cultivation in India, turmeric cultivation and trade in India. First, India is the largest producer and exporter of turmeric in the India. 100% correct. Second, turmeric is primarily cultivated as a kharif crop. Correct. Third, the Spices Board of India plays a role in promoting the export of turmeric and other spices. 100% correct. Now it may be it may change for the turmeric, as we had brought the National Turmeric Board, which would replace the Spices Board with respect to turmeric. So with respect to this question, the correct statements are statement 1, statement 2, and statement 3, which means all the three statements are correct with respect to this question. Why we brought this question? Because the National Turmeric Board, it was inaugurated by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. With this, let's move to the last question from current affairs session, and after that we will move towards the another parts of our discussion. Here, today's last question from the current affairs session is from the Mudumalai Tiger Reserve. As you know, there was Elephant Pongal was celebrated there at Tapakadu Elephant Camp. So we need to understand about the Mudumalai Tiger Reserve, where it is located, which part of the biosphere it belongs to, and how does it deal with. What are the tribals there? As here we had brought the question with respect to tribal communities. Let's answer it first. Here the question says, which of the following tribal communities are traditionally associated with the areas surrounding Mudumalai Tiger Reserve? It is Todas and Kotas. About Mudumalai Tiger Reserve, it is located in Tamil Nadu. We know that. It is the part of the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Part of the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Why we discussed this question? Because of the Elephant Pongal being celebrated there at the Thepakadu Elephant Camp at Thepa Kadu Elephant Camp It was celebrated at this place in the Mudumalai Tiger Reserve. What is the river which is flowing through it? It is River Moyar. This is the Moyar River which flows through this Tiger Reserve. So with this, we complete today's discussion with respect to the current affairs. I hope I was very much able to make you understand every topic here. If any confusion was created or if you are confused anywhere, please do write in the comments. We will try our best to clear that. With this, let's move to the another part of our discussion where we will solve a question from the static portion. As right now we are discussing the Indian polity, and in Indian polity we had started to discuss the office of the president. With respect to the office of the president, we understood a few things about the president. Let me recap it in a nutshell. About the president, he is the ceremonial head of our country. He is not the actual head. He is the de jure, not de facto. De facto is who? It is the leader of the government. That is prime minister. Second thing about the mention of the president in the constitution, it is in part 5 of the constitution. You should know. Then after we saw that our minister, it resembles our president. He resembles very much with the monarch of the Britain, as we had brought the Western ministerial government democracy from them. So he is very much resembling the monarch of the Britain, but there is only one difference, that is in the Britain the monarch is very much hereditary, but in India we are republic, our president is elected. Then we saw that how election of the president, it is not direct election but independent election, and the reason for that was they did not want to make the office of the president that strong. If he is elected by the direct election, there may be the conflict of interests between the president and the prime minister, as if suppose if both of them belong to different parties, then there definitely would be the conflict of interest. And also they wanted the elected government to be more powerful. So there were various reasons. Then we discussed about the manner of election, as it is discussed under Article 54 of the Constitution, that there shall be the president shall be elected by the members of an electoral college. We saw that who are the members of the electoral college. They are the elected members of the both houses of the parliament. Then we saw that elected members of the legislative assemblies of the states and UTs, if UTs have them. We discussed about that elected, and who are the members who are not part of it. It is the elected members of the legislative councils of the state and the nominated members. They are not part of this electoral college. Then after that we discussed, today we have to discuss about the Article 55, that the election of the president shall be held in accordance with the system of what it would be held in accordance to the system of whether it is first past the post. No, it is in proportional representation by means of the single transferable vote. you know for the president to be elected, for example, there are three members. Let suppose there it is A, it is B, and C. Both, all of them are contesting for the election. Usually what happens in our elections, for example, if this person gets 40 votes, he gets 30, and this person gets 30, automatically A gets elected because he got the maximum. This is first past the post vote. But in the presidential elections, it is not so. In the presidential elections, the person who is being elected for the president, he should get the quota. And what is the quota? Quota is 50%, 50% plus 1. For example, how many members are voting, how many members had voted, divided by divided by 2 plus 1, that 50% of those votes plus 1, this is the quota. So to achieve this quota, there is a proportional representation by by means of the single transferable vote. So in this way this is done. How it would be done, for example, when there would be the ballot paper, or we can say when this is provided, the members of the parliament or the electoral college, they will choose their first interest, who is their first interest. Then they will also highlight the second interest, they will highlight the third interest. For example, if for the sake in the first interest, if the person got the quota, he got above 50% vote, then he will be automatically elected as president. But unfortunately, if it does not happen so, then what will they do? They will go for the second counting, and the last least ones who had got the least votes, they will be eliminated, and the second counting would be done. Second counting of what? For example, if you had, what is your second preference, they will be, it would be led as the first preference, and in this way it would be repeated multiple times till they will achieve the quota, till the person will achieve the quota. So this is the, in nutshell, how this presidential election is done. This is in nutshell about the proportional representation by the single transferable vote, and it is discussed under article 55. So I hope you had understood it. I hope you had got the concept what Article 55 deals with. It discusses with respect to the quota. It discusses the Indian Constitution requires that the president should be elected in accordance with the system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. It discussed how the quota can be achieved and all that stuff related to it. So with this, we complete today's discussion with the static topic also. I hope you had understood the basic points which we discussed till now. From last 2 to 3 days we are discussing the president. I hope you had understood every point with respect to that if you had followed me. So with this, the correct answer to this question is option B. I would repeat again, and with this let's move to the last question of today's discussion and try to solve a previous year question which we had brought today. You know, about this initiative, about this previous year question initiative, we had discussed that, we had started it from the very beginning when we started this initiative itself. And in this, we had already completed the questions with respect to the ancient India. We had completed questions with respect to modern India, with respect to medieval India, with respect to freedom struggle. Almost every prelims question was discussed very properly. So after discussing these questions, we had recently started discussing questions with respect to geography, or we can say physical geography. And today's question which we had brought today, it is from, from the paper of 2002, I guess. And let us see what does the question say. Here the question says, consider the following climatic and geographical phenomena. Consider the following climatic and geographic phenomena. What are these? It is condensation, correct? Understood what is condensation? You know, uh, let's understand that. Let's revise that in the mind. The air condenses in the atmosphere, cooling down of the gas. We can say it is condensing. Second, high temperature and humidity. Let's assume there is a high temperature and it is humid. So what will happen? There would be it would be more volatile, it would when there is a high temperature, the bonds get weakened and it would be more volatile. Third, orographic, it is related to mountains, the pressure the mountains create, and then it is vertical wind. So these are the four climatic and geographical phenomenon given here. So let's see what does the question say. Question says the thunder cloud development is due to which of the following phenomena. So here he asks us the thunder cloud, it is because of which of the above phenomenon. Now let's understand what happens here. The thunder clouds develop by the thunder clouds, in fact they develop by all of the climatic or geographical phenomenon given above. Let us see how does it happen. When there is high temperature and humidity, it causes the winds to rise vertically up. When for example there is high temperature, the temperature is high and humidity is high, what will happen? It will cause the winds to rise up. It will cause winds to rise up and also rise vertically up, and due to orographic and pressure of mountains, these winds get condensed. For example, now there is a mountain here. Due to pressure of the winds there, this will get condensed. These there would be the temperature difference, and these humid humid wind, we can say, it will get condensed there. And once it will get condensed there, once it will get condensed there, they will form the cumulonimbus clouds. They will form the cumulonimbus clouds, and they lead to the thunder clouds, or we can say, or thunder clouds. What is the name of the cloud? It is cumo cumo uh, cumulonimbus cumulonimbus cloud. It leads to the cumulonimbus cloud, which is also called a thunder cloud. So with respect to this question, all the four phenomena are very much required. The mountain is required, the vertical wind is required, the high temperature and humidity is required, and the condensation is definitely required. So with respect to this question, all the four statements are correct. You know how you can solve this question by any technique. You know, it is more factual kind of question, and it is more based on the simple understanding. And if you have the understanding about the cloud system, if you have understanding about the how the clouds are formed, it will be very much easy for you to solve these questions. That, you know, that part of our discussion we will discuss when we will take up the geography, and we will take up the climate change. There we will discuss different forms of the clouds, how they are formed, and how they impact the weather conditions of a country. So with this, I hope you had understood this discussion. I hope this was helpful for you. You know, if you like the video, please hit the like button, do subscribe it, and do share it with your friends too, so that they may also get benefited from this initiative. With this, thank you very much. Have a nice day. God bless you.